your inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us on another hour from different parts of the world to engage in this meaningful and mindful conversation as we build our Goldilocks community and help ourselves and those around us find that mindful, balanced life so that we can all come from a place of centeredness. One might ask, why Goldilocks and why this community? And what are we doing here as part of this podcast? And what is the purpose of our presence for the hour? Let's take a step back and think about, what does Goldilocks remind us of? And what is she prompting us to be or become? To me, as I think of Goldilocks and I, in my mind's eye, visualize her, what comes to my mind is myself as a little girl, every one of us as children. We knew exactly what we wanted, when we wanted, how we wanted, and we were not afraid to share that. But at the same time, we were willing to see somebody else's perspective and see if that was going to be more fun. Right? As children, as we become socialized, it is an innate skill that we have. We never say I'm only going to play the game I want to play. I'm not going to be the child who says, everybody has to do what I want. No, as a child, we want to have as much fun as possible, play with as many kids as possible, and make it a joyous moment. When we sit down to eat, we want to make sure it's the stuff we like to eat, right? Our food is not too hot, not too cold. And Goldilocks was very good. And even when she sat on a surface or laid down on a surface, she wanted to make sure it was neither too hard nor too soft. So what happens to these skills of understanding, being in that centeredness, getting it just right? Somewhere along the way, social conditioning, we forget that. And we are today living in a world and a time where everybody believes their position is the only position in the world is black or white, right? We are actually struggling with some of the challenges today that can be even considered life or death, because we are not willing to get it just right. We are not willing to look at things from another perspective. Research shows that we can each influence only 3 levels from where we are. So if I am at an extreme position, say where I take the position that COVID is not real, the vaccination is a hoax, it's actually to plant a chip in our bodies and we're going to be turned into automatrons, and I'm going to lose my ability to be an individual, right? If that is the extreme position I'm taking and I can only influence 3 levels from where I am already at the extreme right end of the position, let's say on a left to right continuum. I can only influence 3 levels towards the center because there's nobody further right of me. 3 levels toward the center means I have to tone down my beliefs and start willing to meet people a little bit with a different perspective. Otherwise, I don't get to influence anybody. No. If I take the extreme left end of the position and every science is completely always accurate at the first time, and a disease is not evolving, and it is not something that we have to keep track of and longitudinally study and adjust and course correct as new trends and the modifications of the virus emerges, we have to course correct. If I don't understand that and I take that extreme position that it is one and done and this is it, then once again, I'm at the extreme left. There is nobody further left of me. I can't influence anybody unless I'm willing to move 3 levels towards the center. But what if I see all perspectives and come from a centeredness, slightly left or slightly right of center? And I understand for some folks based on history and culture and their belief system, it makes sense why they are afraid or why they give the entire notion of the virus and the vaccine a certain story, because sometimes the story we tell has nothing to do with the real issue, right? It's how we justify. I understand that. And I also understand the other perspective. This is a living organism. It is evolving. Therefore, the science is evolving. And just like I can't accurately predict weather, I can only ballpark it. I can only ballpark what this is doing to the society and people around. Let's be flexible and evolve. When I'm coming from that centered position, now I can influence everybody in that centered position, as well as 3 levels to my right and 3 levels to my left. Now I have taken my 3 level of influence and magnified it to 7 degrees of influence. That is the beauty and power of coming from a place of centeredness. Imagine you're an entrepreneur, you have a business you want to run. The power of coming from the centeredness is that you can influence folks 7 levels to gravitate towards what it is that you're providing to serve them, right? And so it gives you the power, it gives you the ability to drive your economic engine. And you will realize the more you are willing to go to the center, the more you are seeing that there is more than 2 sides to a story. And when you start looking at it from different vantage points, you start realizing your prosperity and your success is predicated on taking everybody for a journey. Therefore, you become part of the engine that drives shared prosperity. There's enough for everybody around. Let's share, let's go together, let's come from a place of centeredness. And the whole power and point of Goldilocks and unleashing our inner Goldilocks is to come from that centeredness so that we can live our purpose and we can embrace our prosperity, and in the process, organically drive shared prosperity. You might ask, Cass, what is purpose and what has that got to do with all the tea in China? Our purpose is what drives us. Our purpose is what gives meaning to what it is we do. And when we think of purpose, I think of purpose as the intersection of what I love, what I'm great at, and what the world needs. Imagine even finding my purpose has to come from the centeredness of what I love, what I'm great at, and what the world needs intersects. What if I'm great at something and the world needs it, but I do not love what I do? It's very visible and palpable for people who are dealing with me, because they're going to realize, oh, her heart is not in it. I love it, and the world needs it, but I'm not good at it. Then I am going to be the person opening up the marketplace, and somebody who's better than me is going to come and take that spot. If I love it and I'm great at it, but the world doesn't need it, it's going to remain a hobby. It is not going to drive my economic engine. It is not going to allow me to thrive in all aspects of the world. So even finding my purpose and living my purpose only comes when I'm able to move towards the center of where these 3 elements intersect. Think about that. As we look at how are we going to live our purpose and how are we going to find that centeredness to thrive, I want us to start shifting gears into what today's topic is. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about lifestyle wellness. And when we start thinking about wellness, there are 3 nuggets I want us to take into the conversation, and you're going to love our amazing special guest today. Wellness is not just a physical endeavor. Wellness is a journey that starts from the inside out. And there's nothing more freeing and positive influence than gratitude in our entire psychological well-being. Research shows that gratitude is as powerful in creating that positive boost as high as cocaine without any of the side effects and lasting damage to the health as cocaine. It gives us such a high, and the brain chemistry of gratitude truly triggers all the positivity in ourselves And even in a professional world, our emotional intelligence and how we show up and our ability to succeed is directly correlated to the degree to which we embrace gratitude. I talk about this in my book, Ennoble for Success, and I also give a blueprint on how to embrace this through your gratitude journal, both available on Amazon. But I want us to remember gratitude is such an important cornerstone to our holistic wellness. Being unapologetically grateful and daring to be kind in a world that views them as weakness is triumphant success. And think about why the world thinks being grateful and being kind is a weakness. Because most people are afraid of it. When you are grateful, even for the bad things that have happened in your life, and you're kind to people who have been not so nice to you, imagine the amount of courage and inner strength it takes to do that. It takes you to be vulnerable to be able to do these things. And when we can be emotionally and spiritually vulnerable, then the body gets stronger. You ask any medical professional, anybody going through a catastrophic health situation, when the mind and psychology is positive, the body goes along for the journey. That's why it's so important to be in a happy, loving, caring, kind environment. And if we are building a toxic work environment where everything is negative and high pressure, and it's dog eat dog and survival of the fittest mentality, you will notice people are always sick. Lifestyle diseases like cancer and blood pressure and diabetes spreads because it's the body chemistry. Negative chemistry promotes ill health. Positive chemistry promotes positive health. So keep in mind the importance of gratitude and how it drives holistic wellness. Make space for joy in your lifestyle. Joy is not something you get from the outside. Once again, this too is an inside job. We knew exactly what it is when we were children. Think about what you feel and how you show up the minute you see a little kitten, the minute you see a puppy dog, or a minute you see a little baby. That inner child, that inner wonderment, that inner joy, capture that and let it fill your heart, because when you're happy inside, physically everything is going to feel good and all the other things in your life is going to fall into place and your holistic wellness is going to be possible. And our guest today, Sidney, is sitting surrounded by this very zen, peaceful environment, and I love how he has queued this entire presence up for the conversation. And that's the last nugget I'm going to leave with you. Tap into your inner peace. Whatever you need to have that inner peace, that inner centeredness, is where you need to be, because then everything else falls into place. Find your Zen zone and stay there. Nothing and no one should be given the key to your inner sanctum. So don't allow externalities, whether what happens to you or who happens to be in your sphere that day, or what people are saying to you, don't let any of that touch you. With gratitude, kindness, and embracing joy, and being in that place of Zen, you are going to be starting off in an amazing place to embrace your wellness. And today, to take a deep dive into this and give you so much insightful information and take you on a wonderful journey, is my special guest today, Sidney Porter. Welcome, Sidney.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaz, and blessings to you and our wonderful audience. This is really a blessing for me to have this opportunity to join this space of empowerment and education. You and I had a wonderful conversation previously talking about the importance of balance and how balance is about the internal and the external, and the fact that physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, soulfully, we've got to give all those dimensions of wellness our attention because they are all crucially important to the success that we look forward to having in life. I work with people individually and collectively, and I pride myself on meeting people where they are. Because if you meet somebody where they are, that gives them the best opportunity to get to where they ultimately want to be. And as a lifestyle wellness coach, I'm here to partner with people in identifying, developing, and achieving that happy, healthier version of themselves that I know they want. Because we have dialogue with ourselves every day, all day long. The things that we want, the things that we perceive. You talked very eloquently about the importance of balance. And so many people that I speak to, they suffer from some very damning negative thought patterns. The first, as you mentioned, black or white, where we see life through extremes, where either I'm a success, I'm a failure, I'm good at this, or I'm bad at that. And for those of us who live long enough, we understand that most of life is lived somewhere in the middle, the gray. But unfortunately, when we can't see the gray, when we can't see the in-between, when we can't be happy with that, we struggle because extremes creates stress. And stress, as we know, has a negative domino effect into our behaviors.
Absolutely. And one of the things I love the way you approach this whole wellness, Sidney, is that you approach wellness, one, holistically, and two, from a lifestyle perspective. So can you help the audience understand why both those? Why is it a lifestyle and why should it be holistic?
Absolutely. Holistic is working from within. It is working from our nature. That's where our most powerful resources are, from within our nature. We live very much in an external stimuli world where we're so impacted by things going on around us that we lose connection with our most powerful resource, which is within inside of us, our heart, our soul, our beliefs. And as a lifestyle wellness coach, I help people refocus back on you, that in order to be the happy, healthy version of yourself that you're seeking, it's about doing it in a way that is uniquely yours. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work for the next person, because you're not the next person. You are you. And you've got to be connected to your likes, your dislikes, your strengths, your weaknesses. And as a health coach, I always say that I kind of shine the flashlight on the dark so you can see where those things lie within you. Because like I said, life is so busy, life is so full that we lose sight of, like I said, our internal, our powers. And sometimes you need somebody to come along with that flashlight and help you find those power sources and turn them back on. People will often say that, Sidney, you empowered me. And I didn't empower you. I don't have that ability to empower you. You have that ability within yourself. It's just a matter of someone such as myself, a lifestyle wellness coach, coming along and helping you navigate to that, helping you find it, helping you to remember that. So lifestyle is about understanding that all facets of my life are important. My professional life, my personal life, they are all important. And so it's just about taking healthy behaviors, as we said, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and applying them to all those areas of your life.
Beautifully said. And a lot of times people tend to narrowly define it as physical health and going to the gym. They don't even relate it to food, right?
Yes.
The condition of my physical self is predicated on what I put inside of me in terms of thoughts, in terms of food, right? And in terms of my mindfulness. Can you touch a little bit on the importance of food and eating healthy and how that influences that holistic wellness?
Absolutely. As we put into our bodies, so shall we go. Our food is meant to be our energy source. So as a lifestyle wellness coach, there's never a conversation that we don't talk about food. beverages? What are you putting into your body? How are you fueling your body? Because we want to be able to produce all these magnificent things, but are we properly fueled to do so? So it's coming back to just understanding what our relationship with food should be versus what society is kind of conditioning us to think it should be. You know, society has conditioned us to think that, you know, our food, our beverage choices, they are about pleasure. They are about so many other things besides just the holistic, the most basic thing, which is properly fueling you to be the best version of you each and every day.
Mm-hmm. And I am very appreciative you mentioned that, because nature, Mother Nature has already provided us everything we need to live healthy. The more we move away from what Mother Nature has provided into what man is manufacturing and making, man being a gender neutral word, what humanity is manufacturing and making, more and more diseases are coming in, right?
Absolutely.
And so how do we compete with all this social media, advertising, and commercialization of eating habits, and that as a lifestyle, as opposed to taking from nature and embracing what nature offers and living a good life that doesn't necessarily tick the boxes in terms of that influencer lifestyle in the media world everybody's looking for?
That's great. And as I said earlier, it's about accepting the fact that if I'm going to succeed, I've got to do it in a way that is uniquely me. And to do it uniquely me means I've got to block out the external, the extrinsic, because they can drive us, they can take us so many different places except for where we should be, where we are meant to be. And you mentioned earlier about purpose. And absolutely, we've got to all recognize that we have a purpose. We are not here by happenstance. And how often do you sit back and just reflect? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Why am I in this space versus someone else in this space? We all have such unique, beautiful purposes, but we don't acknowledge them because we're so, once again, so focused in on the external, about society, about how we are conditioned to be versus how we should allow our natural conditions to come out.
That is powerful. What you just said is so powerful. And so understanding and allowing our inner self to show up instead of being influenced by the externalities. And therefore, in a way, you're taking your inner energy and your inner power and putting it out there. And then that is driving the holistic wellness. I'm just mentally imagining it. And what comes to my mind is that ripple effect I am creating for myself from the very center of my core, right? As Absolutely. The center of my being.
Absolutely. I have a simple mantra that I repeat, that I kind of mandate that anybody I work with, that they get used to saying this to themselves on a daily basis. And the mantra is simple. The mantra is, I can do this, and I am worthy of the good results of the wait. And that seems very simple, and people hear it and say, okay, well, yeah, that's kind of simple. It's simple, but do you embody it? Do you understand it? Because the first part of that, I can do this. For many of us, we have struggled with different areas of our health. And so we start to question, can I do this? I see other people doing it, but I don't seem to be able to sustain it. I don't seem to be able to have the level of success that I'm looking for. So remind yourself, heck yeah, I can do this. The other part, I am worthy of the good results of the wait. Once again, as we have repeated failures or we just don't succeed to the way that we had hoped, we start to question, am I worthy? Once again, externally, I am looking at other people. I am observing what's happening around that and using and judging myself off of that. And I can question, am I worthy of it? And once again, yes, you are. You are uniquely built. You are powerful. You have all the tools that you need to achieve. It's just a matter of, once again, as we said, working from the inside out instead of the outside dictate your inside. So that's something that I require. I don't require many things of the folks that I work with, but I require that on a daily basis, they are saying that to themselves, because it's about just speaking into truth. Mm-hmm. And that's what that mantra helps them do.
Speaking into truth. Now that is easy to remember, but extremely powerful to embrace. And I love how you set that up and how you are sharing that and sharing of yourself, right? To help other people understand this. One of the questions that come to my mind is there a difference in the way a woman has to approach her physical wellness compared to a man, given the physiological differences? And what are some of the tips you would have for each of the gender in terms of being aware of it and not expecting everything that works for one gender is going to work for the other?
That's a fantastic question, because it's kind of twofold. The fact that in general, yes, there are things that we all should do. We all should eat a nutrient-rich diet, eating our whole foods, staying properly hydrated, staying physically active, because a body that's active is a body that stays healthy, very simply, irregardless of the gender. Making sure that you're getting good quantity as well as quality of sleep, because a body that's well rested is a body that's going to perform better the next day, both physically as well as cognitively. Managing stress, that's something, once again, that we all must do. So those are the things that, irregardless of who you are, you, me, we all need to prioritize those things. But then once you look at the genders, understanding that, yes, we were uniquely made a little different. And so we've got to acknowledge that and understand that the fact that we are made different, but also the roles that we may play in our lives, which may be different. For myself, as a man, I am a father, I am a husband. I play distinct roles that society has kind of defined for me. So even though I feel like I may do a decent job of trying to, try to play more of a full role, I've also got to understand that society expects me to be able to do these certain things and to perform at the certain aspect. Society defines that I be the physical protector of my family. So you know what? I've got to make sure that I'm physically fit. Society mandates that I be mentally strong because, as stressors occur in life, how does society define it? That the man should be, the broad shoulders that the family leans upon. Conversely, as women, you are defined as the nurturers. You are defined as the givers. Your role is more of a soulful role as society defines it. And so understanding as a woman, how am I tending to my soul? How am I nurturing my emotions? I would say that probably 80% of the people that I work with are women. So I always joke that, I'm a man that has more conversations about, women issues than I really should, but that's the nature of it. And so understanding that, once again, we all have general things that we have to do, but understanding that per the genders, that as a woman, understanding hormonally. So I would say that from a demographic standpoint, the average age of a woman that I speak to is going to be late 40s, early 50s. What's happening at that stage of life? Menopause, change in hormones. We've got to adapt to that. So many of our conversations are about having strategies that are appropriate for where you are at that stage in life. If I'm going through menopause, can I eat the same way I ate in my 20s, before menopause? Can I be physically active? Can I expect the same thing out of my body that I'm going to get now? For men, okay, because Men, we go through it too. We go through menopause, where we are having a change in our testosterone level, and understanding that is going to impact how we feel, how we view ourselves, what we are capable of. So definitely, a lot of the strategies are appropriate to where we are in life, what our genders are, and per our genders, what we may be going through at that moment.
Mm-hmm. And I'm appreciative that you connected the gender specific hormonal changes, because that's something most of the time people are not comfortable talking, right? They don't want to talk about it. It is taboo depending on the culture. You don't even deal with it.
Yes.
And a lot of times women forget that our bodies are built for childbearing. And when we go through the childbearing process, our bodies are never the same after the fact, right? You don't come on the other side of motherhood looking the way you went in to your marriage. And so being a holistic, well-rounded, wellness embracing person, it's also important to have a partner in your life who appreciates that your body's changes were because you carried his baby to term and you brought his offspring to life. And so a lot of women struggle with that body image because of the way the men in their lives look at it. And I want to go there because that is at the heart of a lot of things women struggle. What are some of the pieces of advice you would have for women who, most women have body image issues, and it's only exacerbated by the loved ones in our life just without even thinking, saying things?
Absolutely. That is a great topic and a very sensitive one. To take a step back for a moment, as a lifestyle wellness coach, one of my biggest assets is the ability to connectivity. Because for me to productively assist you in achieving that healthier version of yourself, we've got to be honest. We've got to lay it out on the table. And in order to do that, you have got to have a level of trust with that person that you're speaking to. So that's something that is very important to me, making sure that I am positioning myself in a way that that person that I'm working with, that young lady, that mother, that whoever, they feel like, even though this man is a total stranger, I feel comfortable enough to share with him those intimate details. It's because it's those deep, intimate details that are either going to continue to hold us back health-wise, or they are going to jumpstart that next happy, healthy version of ourselves. In terms of body image, as you mentioned, before childbearing, after childbearing. And many of the people that I deal with, weight management is one of their opportunities. And we always talk about, okay, in your mind, what's an ideal weight for you? And for those women who've had kids, I'd say 90% of the time, they talk to me about where they were before kids, where they are now, and how they'd love to be back to where they were before kids, but they're not sure if that can occur. And as a lifestyle wellness coach, I am never here to tell someone what they should do, what they can be, because I'm not you. That's for that individual to identify in their mind, because they are going to have to own that. They are going to have to own that strategy going forward. So as we talk about, weight, body composition, it's like, hey, well, yeah, I guess I'll never be that weight I was before, but at least let me try to figure out a healthy version of myself now. Because now that I have kids, now that I have a family, I want to be around a long time. I want to watch my kids grow up. I want to be actively engaged with my kids. I want to see my grandkids. So we start forecasting the next couple of chapters in their life. And it's like, okay, that's wonderful. But in order for that to happen, we've got to start here and now with making sure you're eating properly for that life you want to have. You're staying physically active for that life you desire to have. make sure that all your behaviors are as such. And you know, it can be a tough moment when you realize, okay, I may never be that person that I was. But then once they realize all the wonderful possibilities of who they can be, it's a great moment. It's a great aha moment as you start to help them tell the story of what it's going to look like. And yeah, the old version of me was great at, you know, 130 pounds and, you know, a size 6 or whatever the case may be. But you know what? This size 10, this 180 pounds, it can be a beautiful, productive, happy version as well. So that is definitely a big part of my job. Yes.
And that is a huge service for people that you're doing, because when you help them come to terms with who they are today and how they embrace the best version of themselves today, you're truly giving them the ability to own their own power and make their own life, because not many people have that in their life naturally. And having a coach like you, I can't imagine what a blessing it is. So thank you. Thank you for what you do, Sidney. And as you were talking, the image that came to my mind is my Vietnamese friend. She always wore size 0. And as she was going through her pregnancy, she was complaining that how she's no longer a size 0 and she's a size 1. Okay. And then she would then proceed to say in her next life, she wanted to be 0 long because she's Vietnamese and she's short. And I would always joke, if you're 0 long, you'll be a snake. So this was a running conversation between us. She worked for me. She was my friend. And so everybody has a different image of what they want to be, but rooting it in reality is key. And having a coach is a beautiful way to do that, because you have a support system. We have a coach for everything, including Michael Jordan has a coach on helping him how to play basketball better, right?
Absolutely.
So, and he gets paid millions of dollars to play basketball, did when he played. So why not we embrace a coach? We bring coaches for other things. So as we think about where a coach can help and how this makes sense to us, I am going to open it up for the audience here to engage and share their thoughts, ask questions. But I also want, if you are a coach, and Nita, you are a financial coach. Being a financial coach is about giving people financial wellness. Are you seeing any similarities? Because a person's financial wellness is a stress reliever, and therefore it affects their health, right? Because money is the biggest stressor for most people. So where do you see, Nita, your ability to help people deal with their financial stuff so that then Sidney can take on in terms of how he takes them along for that wellness lifestyle journey? I'm just curious.
It's funny because I actually start with the mindset first before we actually go into the business side. And so to have a healthy business, you've got to have a healthy person. And so you do need to address the fears and the doubts of why haven't they achieved what they want to achieve, because actually it's those ants going around in their head, you know, those automatic negative thoughts that you need to squash before you can move forward. So you do actually need to tackle the mindset first, for them to become aware, to accept where they're at before they can move forward. Sometimes that's not always possible, especially if a business's survival is at stake, but at the same time, it can't be ignored. So I do actually look at the mindset first before I actually go on to the business side. So yeah.
And if I could follow up on what Nita said, because you are absolutely correct. As our mind goes, so go our behaviors. So I always talk to people about the fact that if you want to have positive, productive behaviors, it begins with a positive, productive mindset. But unfortunately, once again, society has conditioned us to worry about the behaviors, you know, and then hope that the mindset follows. And it's got to be just the opposite. So it's a great job on your part with what you do.
And I mean, it's a case of, you know, sometimes, you know, we go to that fixed mindset. And actually, you've got to, if you want to change things, you've got to go into that growth mindset of making change. And so it's a bit like our mobile phones. You know, if we don't do the software updates, we're going to be forced to actually, do this update. And so that we need to update our minds, whether it's change with technology or change with our environment and everything. And so by moving more to a growth mindset makes you more acceptable, or you won't be as rigid or restricted or limited on what gets recommended to you. And you have that open mind, which means you can change and improve and move forward. Because if you stay in your old world and you don't know why you got there in this little cage in the first place, you're going to stay there. And so, yes, it is so important.
Beautiful. Loving this conversation. Thank you so much, Nita. And thank you for your insight, Sidney. Anybody has any questions or thoughts to share with Sidney? Go ahead. Now is your chance. Ask away. You have a coach here.
And so my biggest one, Sidney, is the money mindset. It is from the childhood of where money was restricted that you find that putting a value on your services as a coach to somebody else it can be quite hard. And, where you don't, obviously coaches don't guaranteed results, but we do obviously have a positive impact on that person. The going through that mental journey for a coach themselves, or that mindset the money mindset is one of my biggest challenges. What are your thoughts on that, Sidney?
Definitely. I work with a variety of demographics. And, definitely the financial is a demographic in terms of everybody, as we said, everybody could use the benefit of having somebody to talk to. And I always hate having to title myself something, because I'm just that guy. If you've got to give me a title, that's fine. But let's do away the titles. Let's look upon me as a caring human being who's just here to listen, to partner with you, not to, as I said earlier, to dictate, but to partner with you. And I'm always going to make myself accessible to whoever welcomes the opportunity to speak with me. A little bit about my background very quickly. I come from a very religious family, and it was always kind of believed that I would become a minister. Well, I knew myself realistically and knew I had a little bit too much sinning in me to, to be on somebody's pulpit, to be a minister. So I always prayed, God, show me how you would like to see me used. You've uniquely built me. You've given me certain assets that are my treasures that I want to share with the world. I don't want to die without sharing those treasures with the world. So put me in the path, put me in the intersection at the right time, at the right place for people that need me. That's all I ask. And it's become a ministry of wellness. That's what I have right now, is a ministry of wellness. And that, in my mind, is doing God's work, because we are blessed. Each day that we wake up, that's a blessing. So something that I always talk to people is you've been blessed with today. How are you going to pay that blessing off? Because you got to pay it off. You've been given a treasure, the treasure of another day, because unfortunately there are people who weren't given this treasure. So since you were, pay it off. And that's kind of, how I try to interact with people, to partner. And like, so to the point of the financial, yes, of course I'm in business, and that's always going to be an aspect, but I'm never going to allow that to get in the way of doing what I feel like I was ordained to do.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good way to look at it, and a beautiful way to look at it, Sidney. And thank you for the question, Nita. We have a question from the audience here. Robin, her camera is not working, so she's typed her question. Sidney, she would like to know how you got into this profession and what helped you get to where you are today. Because it's not something children grow up saying they're going to be, right? It's
Exactly.
not one of the professions, and you carved out a niche for you. How did that come about?
The short answer, you're correct. This is not how I began. I went to school for journalism, had a long marketing career. That was who I was. That was me doing who I felt I was supposed to be, based upon what society told me I should do. But in order for me to do that, being well, taking care of myself was always important, because the stressors of having a job, the stressors of having a family, I needed to take care of myself to manage those stressors. So as I became just more aware of the importance of wellness, it was like, well, let me learn a little bit more about this. And I would often get people who would ask me, you seem to be in good shape. You seem to be in good spirits. You seem to, be level mentally, emotionally. How is that the case? And so it just started off with casual conversations about what I did for myself. And I found that I enjoyed having those conversations. And it kind of had a aha moment where, as I said earlier, going back to feeling that I was ordained for ministry, but not knowing what type of ministry. And it was kind of there for me. So it was kind of a very, very much of a paradigm shift in my career, in terms of going from who I was supposed to be to going to who I was meant to be. And 15 years later, I've had a very successful career. I feel so blessed for the many thousands of lives that I've been fortunate enough to touch, because it's been a blessing to me. Because each time I talk to somebody, each time I connect with somebody, not only am I helping them, but it gives me an opportunity to vet my own actions, my own behaviors. Every time I talk about nutrition, I've got to ask myself, am I eating healthy? Every time I talk about physical activity, I got to ask myself, did I go to the gym today? So it's a constant vetting that goes on. So like I said, this is not where I started, but I feel very blessed that this is where I am right now.
Thank you. And Robin loves what you just said, loves that you went from who you were supposed to be to becoming who you were meant to be, right? Yes. So that is a beautiful journey, but it's a journey most people are terrified of taking, because you are going from a guaranteed salary and an employment to going with your life's purpose that may or may not result in that financial stability, but it is your calling. And when other people look at their own purpose as part of their journey to wellness, what would be one or two items of guidance you'll give as they make that pivot? Because it's not an easy pivot to make. Most people are not risk takers.
Absolutely. And you're right. It was definitely a risk. And, my wife can attest to that, because, we go from, absolutely, guaranteed income to now the unknown. But that's where the importance of our faith comes in. Whatever your faith is, whoever you pray to, but having that level of faith that your path is ordained, that your path is being dictated in the right direction. So for someone who's interested in getting into wellness, into health coaching, there's so many titles that go into this, but I would first encourage them to just look inside. What are your gifts? What are your treasures? Identify those and then figure out, okay, if these are my gifts, these are my treasures, how can I use these for the betterment of somebody else, for the betterment of society? As I said, for me, one of my gifts is the ability to connect, the ability to make people feel comfortable around me. I consider myself a very empathetic person. And so that's a strength that I work off of. I'm always going to be successful when I work from my true nature versus working from who I think people expect me to be. So that would be a key thing that I would say to somebody is be true to yourself. You've got to understand yourself before you go and try to impact somebody else's life.
And that's an important piece of advice to remember, regardless of the profession, right?
Absolutely.
Come from your place of purpose, and you come from loving it and embracing it, because that is, you call it treasure, I call it superpower. It is the gift that we were given innately by our Creator. Then things will fall into place. And that puts all of this together is our belief in ourselves and the belief that we were put here for a reason, right? Gandhi talked about it so eloquently what we believe becomes our thoughts become our words become our actions become our behavior becomes our values, and our value becomes our destiny. That literally means once you connect the dots, our belief is our destiny. So if we want to change our destiny, first we have to change our belief system. And that starts with changing what we believe about ourselves. So I'm not good enough, I'm not that, I'm not this. Just take all the negativity out and embrace these wise words and voice of experience that we're hearing from Sidney. And it is my hope that each of you start your journey from within and start thinking about what it is that you are destined to be. As Sidney said, what are you ordained to be? And just live it. And you will find that when it comes from the inside out, it flows like a waterfall. It will bring abundance of joy and peace and all of those amazing things. Sidney, I can sit and talk to you for a whole day. And we definitely will think about bringing you back, maybe even working on a retreat and bringing people in to actually engage in a captive environment for 2-3 days to put these practices into life. Would love to explore ways to work with you on this and help this community and help our communities at large. And more than anything else, thank you so much for being able to give your time. I'm a believer that when you give your time for the benefit of the others, you've given a piece of your life that you're never getting back.
Absolutely.
And that is a blessing. And thank you so much for that, Sidney.
Thank you very much as well. Like I said, this is truly a blessing. This is my purpose. And when you understand your purpose, you look for any opportunity to be engaged in it. So I thank you very much for this opportunity. Look forward to any other future opportunities, and blessings once again to you and your wonderful audience.
Thank you so much. And as we bring it today to a close, I want each and every one of you to start thinking about, what is your purpose? How are you fulfilling your purpose? And how are you taking this journey from the inside out so that you are living the life you were meant to be, and you are living a life in a way that it was gifted to you in honor of the Creator, whoever you believe, whether it's science, God, whatever your belief system is, this is a gift. And embrace those gifts and use those gifts to pass it on. The beautiful thing about gifts is the more you share it, the more joy it brings. And success and prosperity and joy, they're all amplified when you use it and when you give it away. So go out there and transform lives and build those transformational relationships. And in the process of doing it, remember, you are transforming yourself. So embrace it, own it, and be the best version of you, and everything else through the gravitational pull will come to you. The universe will find you if you become one with the universe. Thank you very much. And I cannot wait to meet up with you for another hour.